Michael Short was quite a week in the world of politics.
Yeah.
I say that because Kamala Harris did a sit down. She did also and made comments about more than comments. She laid out these strategies for the economy moving forward, the U.S. economy. Her world of Kamala Harris website, et cetera, actually released an 80-page, I think it was, a treatise on the economy and again strategies for the days ahead should she become president. Meantime, on the other side, Donald Trump is stumping very hard. He, in addition to the stumping, in addition to the general exhorting crowds to show up to vote, he was pitching merch. As you know, he just had this watch that we showcased a few minutes ago before you got here. So he's busy also telling people to vote early. Tony, do you have that? Before I let Michael speak, I want him to see this. This is Trump on the stump saying to people, hey, you got to get out there and you got to vote now, which is something very different from the message that he used to have. Although, as you'll see, he references sort of how ridiculous this system is and how easily it can be gamed. So in a sense, he's tipping his future plan. Here's just a second of it.
Early voting begins in Pennsylvania over the next 2 weeks, and we need each and every one of you to go out. Just don't take anything for granted. We got to get out and vote, and you can start right away. You know that, right? Now we have this stupid stuff where you can vote 45 days early. I wonder what the hell happens during that 45. Let's move see these votes? We've got about 1 million votes in there. Let's move them. We're fixing the air conditioner in the room, right? No, it's terrible. What happened the last time was disgraceful, including right here. But we're not going to let it happen again. Too big to rig, right?
So that's his Pennsylvania, a piece of his Pennsylvania stump speech. Speak to the Trump plan, if you would, please, Michael, and just sort of the state of the race.
Well, I mean, the state of the race is that it's close. It's close in the states where it's meant to be close. But that's why we're paying attention to them. We wouldn't be paying attention to them if we didn't know they were close. So when people say, oh, my God, it's so close in Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's what makes it a swing state. That's what makes it purple. We announce that it's going to be close. So to see it close is not surprising. It surprises a lot of people who don't like Donald Trump that Donald Trump could be doing so well that the race is, evenly split. You asked me to speak to what his plan is. I don't know what his plan is. I mean, I've been critical of his campaign because I don't really get what his campaign is doing. If I were Donald Trump, I would not be running the campaign that he's running because he's going after and he's trying to energize the people who already like him. Talking about eating cats and dogs is not going to win over new voters, and he has to do that. He has to win over voters that were lost to the Democrats in 22 and in 20. I mean, intellectually, he knows that he lost that race, even if he's not going to say it. And so he knows that more people came out to vote for Democrats. So he needs to bring Republicans who left back. He needs to bring independents and also Republican voters who stayed home and women. He's sowing seeds of doubt by telling people to vote early. And that's his MO here. I just find it all very curious.
Well, he's sowing seeds of doubt by telling people that this is, we want you to vote, but this is a ridiculous system, so easy to cheat. So he's doing this. Right?
Exactly. I mean, listening to what he just said, who's going to vote early, right? He says, we got to get out there. It's so stupid that we can vote 45 days early, but you can vote now. Oh, and those votes get moved. What a silly, stupid system we have here. So is he telling people to vote early? Well, at the beginning, it sounded that way. And then he goes down a road where it seems like, well, don't vote early. And voting early is a mistake because they move it when they need to fix the air conditioning. But we all know it's not. They don't move it to Lebanon. They move it over to fix the air conditioning, and they don't do that.
Yeah. A-Golf is saying he tries to eliminate trust in the vote in every state he loses. I mean, he certainly is trying to undermine any kind of trust in the vote. Yeah.
For sure he is. He doesn't even need to do that because the people that I speak to and the people that he speaks to, they already don't have faith in the system because he has brainwashed them into thinking that everything is a mess and that last time it was a bad result, an off result.
The support that he's getting from his party is more than just the election deniers. I was talking about Mike Johnson as an election denier who's setting up, when asked point blank whether he would certify the election should Trump lose this time, he said, well, we have to see whether it's a fair election. You know, it's the default position essentially that they take. But beyond that, the rhetoric about the Haitian community, the immigrant community, the insanely pointed, bigoted, prejudiced rhetoric. It's so gross. And yet members of his party are not only signing on for the election denying thing, they're signing on for that too.
Yeah, I mean, I was it was the first time since the debate. I was in the field last week. I was at a Trump rally in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I was asking people about that. And I asked them, even though it's been debunked, and you can link this video or find it or whatever, but even though it's been debunked, do you still think he should be talking about it? And some people say it hasn't been debunked. I saw someone eating a cat, or they're picking up geese at the local pond. When asked how that is different than hunting, they say it's hunting is humane and this is inhumane. It's obviously about race. They don't want to say it is. But when I ask people, if let's just start from the premise that it is not true, the town has said it's not true, the chief of police, and these people are police loving people until you tell them something that the police said that they don't like, they all say, well, we should still talk about it. You know, even though it's fiction, we should still talk about it. So these are the devotees. These are the people that he doesn't have to worry about. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, he, by doing this, is getting the applause that he loves. He's getting the full houses that he loves. I don't know that he's going to be getting the votes that he needs, because he's just appealing to the people who have already decided that they're Donald Trump supporters.
Let me just ask you about that, and then I want to ask you about a huge change in his ground game and who's running it. But I want to first just follow up on that. Wasn't it the case, Michael Shure, that once before that motivated base showed up in big enough numbers to beat Hillary Clinton? I mean, can I make an argument looking back to 2016, or was he still the new enough candidate and she had enough problems that that was a unique case?
I mean, both are right? I mean, he was able to energize a segment of our population with promises that he was going to, quote, drain the swamp, be an outsider, be a celebrity, say things that were verboten before to say politically in the public sphere. Combined in that stew is a 2-decade, discomfort, somewhere between discomfort and hatred of Hillary Clinton from both Republicans and some Democrats. So it was a perfect event for him to be able to win that election, but he lost the next time. And yeah, he got more votes than he did the first time because more people were involved. It was easier to vote during a pandemic. There wasn't much else to do. People were glued to this stuff, but more people voted for Joe Biden that year. And then in 2022, Republicans didn't do well. And since then, the Dobbs decision overturned Roe v. Wade. So there's another component to this. So it's not an easy path. I mean, sometimes you say, all right, I've got this money. I've got enough money to go on vacation. Now I got to go earn a little bit of money to be able to pay for dinner while I'm away. And I don't think he's paying for dinner right now. And I think that's the big problem for Trump. Look, I've been proven wrong about Donald Trump before. Many of us have. But this is purely mathematical and purely, getting a feel for if I were running his campaign. That's not how I would do it.
I want to talk about the ground game because apparently it's something that worries a lot of Republicans, and this is now a worry that they are vocalizing. The ground game is in large measure being handled now, and this is, again, sort of wild, but by Elon Musk and Elon Musk's people. Right. Before you discuss the problems with that or the virtues of that, explain to us what a ground game is again, please.
I mean, a ground game is really election day. It's all about election day. It's everything you do to get out your vote, to get your surrogates out there beforehand, to make sure that souls to the polls, if you're trying to get churches to get people to the ballot boxes. Unions do a ground game, but that ground game has to come from not just somebody sitting around the union hall. It comes from somebody in the campaign saying, hey, we're going to do this event. It's going to be a voter registration drive, and then we're going to be driving voters to the polls. We've got buses rented. We've got signs on the outside, and we also have a way of getting out part of our message until election day. We have ways of doing that beforehand. That's a ground game too. So if you're in a place, let's say it's a state like, let's say it's a union state. We'll go back to unions like Michigan. Well, Michigan's supposed to be close, right? It's a purple state at the moment. It's a blue state in their state house and in their Senate and their congressional delegation, but it's a close race there. So what do you do? Like with unions, you do events. You make sure that the campaign has a conduit to your union voters and your union halls and your local presidents and all of that. And so it gets built up by political operatives, people who've worked races that are all the way down to aldermen in the city of Detroit, all the way up to the United States Senate. So that's what a ground game is, basically. And it's not usually handled by somebody who is not a political operative. It's the people who know the ground, basically, the field, more than anybody else.
It's usually handled in-house, and it's not handled, you
right.
don't farm out your ground game.
This is what politics is, small p politics, right? I mean, this is the politicking. This is, so we're going to be going from Ann Arbor to Traverse City to Grand Rapids, and I know a guy who organized for, this congressman in Grand Rapids and this unsuccessful candidate, but he's got a big list and he knows how to get the vote out. All of that stuff, letting people know that it's going to be early when early voting starts, and all of that, making sure that people who have problems with their registration, say, I registered, but I never got my ballot in the mail, looking after that stuff. It's constituent services. And it's a major part of politics that you don't see when you just show up and vote, which is what most people do. No discredit to them, but there are people that are activists and operatives who do that every day.
Trump's team apparently deciding to trust outside groups like Musk's America PAC and Turning Point Action, run by, again, Charlie Kirk, who is,
right.
Super right-wing influencer.
Well, I mean, you said a word there, Mark, influencer. That's something that people don't know. You don't need a ground game. If you own Twitter and you have Turning Points USA and you're able to reach people very quickly, that's one thing, and that's an important thing. But that's more toward the idea of advertising with a little bit of organizing, right? But a ground game, a field director. So you'll have a state with field directors in every county, even depending on how big the state is. And those field directors will be making sure that everything is mobilized. That's sort of the micro, right? Elon Musk may be good at the macro. Charlie Kirk is certainly good at the macro. But election day is about micro. And I don't know if that will work.
Just to put a fine point on it, Trump's team claims to be operating a kind of volunteer army of canvassers. They call it Trump 47 Captains. These so-called captains get free Trump paraphernalia for recruiting voters. The Trump campaign says that they have as many as 27,000 of those volunteers. So at least they're talking about this aggressive ground game that is sort of conscripting all of these various people. It may be, but
it's certainly important. And they're not going door to doors. I mean, you get a list when you go out there, and they rate voters 1 to 5 as to how often they vote. A 5 voter that votes, registered Republican 5 voter that's a door you think that you want to knock on, but that person's going to vote no matter what. You want to go to the person who's voted, and they track this stuff, and maybe 2 out of the last 4 elections, 2 out of the last 5 elections, and you go to that door with these people. You knock on the door, you say, what do you need? Is everything in order? Can you vote? Are you going to be with us? Are you going to be with Trump Vance this election? We're going to need you. We're going to need this. And that's what that operation is. The fact that he has that and he thinks is so novel is a little bit naive, because Democrats have that too, and Republicans who ran before him have it as well. So this is something that happens in politics all the time, that Musk is running it and Charlie Kirk is running it. That's the kind of thing that impresses Donald Trump, but I don't think it should scare Democrats at all, maybe scare Republicans, because if he's sort of siphoning that off to other people and doesn't have the real grassroots that you need to win a presidential election, and I'm not saying that's the case, but if that's what they're questioning, then that's the smoke I'd be worried about.
Well, the other thing, just on that, and this is not nothing. I mean, the down ballot races care a lot about this too, and it seems as though Trump's emphasis is top of ticket. He doesn't have a lot of feeling for those who are down ballot.
No, not at all. I mean, and that's a good point. I mean, the people who would be organizing are generally organizing for the ticket, for the slate, right? They'll be dropping flyers off with every Republican's name on it, and this is who you should vote for. And that I don't think is a concern to Donald Trump. He wants one thing, and he wants to be a winner, and instead of a loser like he was last time. And in order to do that, he's got to do more, in my estimation, than have Elon Musk run his ground game.
To North Carolina, Michael Shure, 9 in 10 likely voters say their minds are made up. Only 10% say they might change their minds. Those are the 10% that we see in every CNN focus group.
Yeah, and that's not surprising. We're just over a month out of Election Day, and most people know who they're voting for. And this is exactly what we talk about when we talk about what this race is about. And this is exactly why I was saying that if I were, the former president, I would be running a different race, and I would be shooting for those 10%, not to get your 45% out, right? I mean, I would be trying to get the people that you need to win over, or especially the people you need to win back, who you had in 2016 or you may have lost in 2020.
Well, the Bloomberg News Morning Consult poll, again, has essentially dead heat stuff, but it also has things that I think can be instructive. Again, we can sort of say, well, it's the same old thing, but I still look at it, as you say, as we close in on D-Day. They found that the most important issue for voters in North Carolina was the economy, 37%. That was followed by protecting democracy at 27%. And 12% said that abortion or immigration was the most pressing issue. They had more trust in Trump on the economy at 49%, but Harris isn't far behind, 41%. And also on immigration, 49 to 38%. But voters trusted Harris more on abortion, with her getting 49% to Trump's 38%. That's no surprise. And again, same poll found Harris with a 2-point lead in North Carolina, 50% to 48%. Of course, that's within the margin of error. So I remind us why North Carolina is even a state we spend time on now.
Well, because it's so close. I mean, that's the obvious answer. The other part of that answer is you can look into the fact that maybe there's confidence in other states, or a lack of confidence in other states, and they see North Carolina as an opportunity. Trump is spending time there because he and the Republicans are afraid that they're losing hold of that, and this 2-point lead would indicate that they're probably right about being right to be concerned. And it's a state that is one of those states that is ordinarily thought of as out of reach for Democrats, but man, so close. And this time I think it feels the same way, but maybe just a little closer than it seemed in the past because of the negatives that Trump has. Also, the economy and protecting democracy, saving democracy. It's very, very easy for politicians to articulate the economy and talk to voters about that. Democracy and protecting democracy, saving democracy is it's a much more difficult thing to define, to dumb down, to get people to want to vote for. I mean, people vote for what it's like at home, right? And if a loaf of bread costs a little bit more, or if my daughter is not going to be able to get the medical treatment she needs, and those are things that affect us on a daily basis. Democracy, sure, but it's a big picture issue. Democrats want to chip away at those economy numbers, and they want, I think with Harris putting this out, I think it's very important that, this economic plan out, as numbers are getting better and interest rates are going down, and the Commerce Department is saying, things are not as bad as we had previously thought. These are good things for the vice president. But at the same time, a lot of people's minds are made up that, okay, this is what the price of gas is, and it wasn't this way, 4 years ago. Well, damn it, I'm not going to vote for the new person.
No Contendo is saying to you, Michael Shure, is La Savita Wilds. These are the people who are running the campaign, essentially, that Trump is pursuing against Harris. Are they insulted that they are being undermined by outsourcing? Does this cause more friction within the top brass? Any heads to roll?
I mean, it could be. I don't see with this little time left in the race, when you do a shakeup in a campaign, generally speaking, it shows a lack of confidence. It shows that things aren't going right. It shows that we thought we were going to win and now we're losing. So we need to, think of firing a coach in I'll go to hockey. If your team is not doing well and you fire the head coach, that's not because things are going really well, right? And so the same thing in politics, it indicates that something's wrong, and you don't want to betray that this close to the election. I think what LaCivita and Wilder do, I think that's more about message. That's more about planning. That's more about where the candidate's going to be, who the surrogates are, and where they're going to be. Again, the Trump campaign is atypical. I'm talking about how typical campaigns work, and the Trump people operate in very different ways. Obviously, we haven't seen this sort of stuff outsourced before, but I wouldn't say the outsourcing, if it's causing friction, I don't think it's going to change. Personally, I don't think it's going to change between now and election day. It'll be, in the books and articles that are written in a post-mortem way should Trump not win.
Speaking of LaCivita, let's show Michael Shure the new Kamala spots. I'm just curious as to your impressions on these. Go ahead. Either one that you have loaded would be fine. Thanks so much, Tony.
And he's been an unbelievable Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson.
For me, there's no compromise on abortion.
I think you're better than Martin Luther King.
We could pass a bill saying you can't have an abortion in North Carolina for any reason.
The abortion in this country is about killing a child because you aren't responsible enough to keep your skirt down.
I've been with him a lot. I've gotten to know him, and he's outstanding.
Donald Trump and Mark Robinson. They're both wrong for North Carolina.
I'm Kamala.
So there we go. We talk about North Carolina. We talk about how close it is, and there's the spot. And Robinson, who we've checked off on in a conversation with you once before, now at best you'd call him embattled and troubled, and at worst you'd call him toast. Give me your sense of that spot.
I would go right to toast. I think, first of all, before we knew this stuff, he was down by about 5 or 6 points in reliable statewide polling in North Carolina. That spot is exactly what you do when something like this happens, and that's responsive advertising, and it's done really well. You want to associate when you're given a gift like the Democrats were given with not just what happened to Robinson or what was revealed by the K file at CNN, but it's more about what the gift being that Donald Trump has said so many nice things about this and has about this guy and has associated himself with him. In that rally, I asked several of the people, and there are clips of this too, what they think of Mark Robinson. If it's true, will you still vote for him? And they say, yes, if it's true, we'll still vote for him. On balance, there were a few people who said to me, no, if it's proven true, and they don't believe that it is, if it's proven true, they couldn't vote for him. This is about, you were asking earlier, Mark, it's like, how do Republicans vote for Donald Trump, who are mainstream Republicans? Well, it's about policy too. For some people, even smart people, they say, hey, listen, I'm a small business owner. I don't want minimum wage to go up because it'll really hurt my bottom line. I'm not passing judgment on this. This is just what people say. And they say, and I don't like Donald Trump, but I really feel like a Republican in charge is going to keep my taxes down, and that's my most important issue. So people are going to still vote for him. The Mark Robinson thing is always curious to me, because why would you want somebody with such a checkered past and somebody who is, all about controversy and saying things that are provocative and not really, nobody knows what a lieutenant governor does, but not really proffering ideas about how to make North Carolina better. I don't see him winning. I didn't see it even before this, but this is a gift for the Harris people there, especially in a state like we were talking about in North Carolina, where, it's there for the taking possibly, and that's exciting for the Democrats.
He's so extreme. I mean, he is the extreme end of the MAGA extreme spectrum. So, Michael, go ahead.
Mark, I'm sorry. One thing I should say is that before all of this happened, this is why we're talking about North Carolina. This is part of the answer, because the Democrats saw, hey, there's this really extreme sort of political loon at the top of the ticket for governor there in North Carolina, and he's turning a lot of people off. We can capitalize on this, and I think that the Democrats have realized that, and that's part of the answer that I didn't give before, is that they saw an opportunity that didn't exist, and a lot of that is because of Mark Robinson, and that was pre-Black Nazi stuff.
I now want to get to the last spot, please, Tony. Play the other spot for Michael Shure, please.
Bob and I both voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for him twice. I won't vote for him again. January 6th was a wake-up call for me.
Donald Trump divides people. We've already seen what he has to bring.
He didn't do anything to help us. Kamala Harris, she cares about the American people. I think she's got the wherewithal to make a difference. I've never voted for a Democrat.
Yes, we're both lifelong Republicans.
The choice is very simple.
I'm voting for Kamala.
I am voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I love that spot. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's a great spot. I mean, there's like, I think when you're a reporter, you're skeptical from the get-go. Like, what did they not know that they voted for him a second time? I understand voting for him the first time. I don't understand voting for him the second time. That being said, there could be a reason. They may have just not liked, Vice President Biden, who was vice president at the time, or had been vice president. I don't know. But the point is, these ads are effective. Republicans, people say, well, why does it matter that, former Senator Nancy Kassebaum of Kansas came out and supported Kamala Harris? You see, Adam Kinzinger and the Cheneys, and why does that matter? It doesn't really matter. There's nobody sitting on their couch saying, as soon as Dick Cheney says he's voting for Harris, then I'm good. What it does in a sort of bigger way is it makes it feel okay, right? I mean,
thank you.
And that is the sort of intangible, important part. When African Americans, when Black Americans were first getting onto ballots, right, and they needed white people in their states to vote for them. If you knew your neighbor was voting for Harvey Gantt, let's say, who was running against Jesse Holmes frequently, and will stay in North Carolina, white Democrats did not have a long history. White North Carolinians did not have a long history of voting for Black people in that state. But as soon as your neighbor says, I don't like Jesse Helms, I'm going to vote for Harvey Gantt, you're like, oh, really? Okay. And then you're thinking about that. And so it gives you an ability that you didn't have, ability isn't really the right word, but it makes it okay, right? It gives you a pass to do that, because it's really in your heart. You want to vote for Harvey Gantt, but you really want to hear somebody else say it's okay to do it. That's what these ads are about. And I think they're super effective.
I agree. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love that spot. It is giving you permission to vote for Kamala Harris.
That's the word, permission.
And
that's the word.
I just love those spots. I believe that is how you get independent voters who are, quote, independent, over to your side. And you can make even those little improvements around the margin could swing the election.
No
On
question.
your way out, give me, sorry, go ahead. What was
this
that?
This is really tight. So, I mean, those little improvements, if this sways, 180 votes in one county, wow.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's a commercial that just came out like a week or so ago with a guy, I forget his name. He's like a traditionally male, like Western actor.
Oh yeah, it's Sam Elliott.
Thank you. And he says, if this is a woman thing, get over it. Vote for, I'm a real man voting for a woman. I thought that was pretty effective. Absolutely. As far as appealing to like this, man who maybe was thinking about, God, can I really vote for a woman for president? Yes, you can.
You can. It's the same idea, Kim. It's exactly what we're talking about. And he's the beef, it's what's for dinner guy, right? I mean, right. So he is a pass, he gives permission to the non-classical voter who would vote for an African-American woman. I mean, that's it's simple, it's hard to even say it because it sounds so crass, but it's true. And you've got to sort of be truthful about it. There are a lot of men who have a harder time voting for women, and you can complain about that and you can say that's wrong and you can get angry about it, but you have 40 days till the election and you have to figure a way out to address it. And I think these ads do that.
I'm way over time, but I will not stop this conversation without touching on something that I talk about all the time. You're not here when I talk about it, but I've been saying it for years. the Secret Service has been dining out on a reputation of protecting high-profile people, our vision of these heroic people who run alongside the various limousines and vehicles that carry very important people has burnished this notion that they're all heroes. The reality of that agency is that I think it needs a bottom-up cleaning. I think it needs a reconstitution to bring it back to that image that we all have. If you Google Secret Service and scandal, you'll see they've run everything from brothels to drug dens. And now in this most recent incident, a Secret Service agent in Vice President Kamala Harris's security detail, now placed on administrative leave following allegations of groping a Harris staffer in Wisconsin. I wonder if you can give me a moment on the Secret Service, Michael Shure. You might disagree with me, but I feel as though that agency has issues.
I mean, look, the problem with the Secret Service or any service like this, you can look at the IDF. They have one bad day, and it's a disaster, and it's a disaster that means top to bottom. We had somebody try and get a bomb in their shoe onto an airplane, and we all have to take our shoes off. And so there are we react and perhaps overreact, but the Secret Service has had a bad year and they've had a bad era, I would say right now. Not that anybody has, none of their protectees have been killed. There were people killed in Pennsylvania because of that shooter there. But I think that you're right. And I think that what happens with places like the Secret Service is they promote their own into positions of leadership. And, I don't think outsourcing your ground game in a campaign is a great idea, but I think outsourcing leadership to something like the Secret Service wouldn't be the worst idea. You are going to end up with somebody who's been in law enforcement because that is the right person to lead that department. But I also think when they were taken away from the Department of Treasury and put into Homeland Security, there were lots of cuts to the staff that they had, operations, bureaucrats, and management there, as well as agents in the field. And so I think that is that's been a problem for them that came out after with the Patriot Act and the formation of the Department of Homeland Security. The Secret Service had been charged with counterfeiting, right? They've been charged with other things, and the protective division right now is in a bit of trouble. And these sorts of things usually lead to top down. And I think that the Congress, when they get back in January and they know who's in the Congress, is probably going to deal with it pretty quickly.
Quick thoughts on the mayor of New York, and also whether the door's now open, as I'm reading, for Cuomo to charge back in, somehow reconstitute his image.
I do hug and kiss people casually.
Yeah, that will come back. But go ahead, Michael.
I don't know what's going to happen and who takes it. The first thing that is amazing to me, and as someone who follows politics and loves it and grew up in New York City, is that if the mayor is removed or resigns, the consumer advocate takes over. Not the city council president, not a deputy mayor, the consumer advocate, which is just astonishing to me. I think that, we probably talked about it here, that the 5 stages of scandal, right? We're in the defend it now, be adamant about it. And I think stage 2 is everybody starts jumping ship. And usually stage 3 is I can no longer lead and I'm going to step aside and I'm going to be angry and I'm going to fight these charges. We're probably in stage 2, probably between stage 1 and 2 right now. I don't see how Adams can stay in that office under this kind of an indictment. I also think that with an election coming somewhat soon in New York and some big personalities in New York, you mentioned Cuomo, that it's going to be hard for him to hang on to that office anyway. So people will jump from that. And as soon as he has less of a support staff, it's going to be adios, Eric.
Yeah. Thanks for the drill down on so much in the way of politics. Give me 30 seconds on the Niners.
They're hurt. Kittle's coming back this weekend. They say McCaffrey was in Germany getting his stuff looked at. They lost to the Rams in a way that they shouldn't have, and they overcoach. This staff overcoaches sometimes. But anyway, go Niners. We'll win the Super Bowl. Everything will be fine.
Okay. Find Michael Shure across the web and here on Fridays. Wow, love your stuff.
Yeah,
thanks, Michael.
Go to YouTube, TYT on YouTube. and skip all the stuff with jank in it. You can find some of my videos in the field under videos there. If my mom can find them, you can too. So check those out. They're fun. I mean, some of them are kind of
fun.
No,
I love that stuff that you do, and you drag your ass all over this country to these various rallies to talk to these people. So we should check them out. Go to tyt.com or TYT on YouTube. Just Google it or
Google it.
You can find it, and then Michael is there talking to every manner of Trump supporter and beyond. Thank you, Michael Shure. See you. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.